Hi, here's another video about the importance of tactical voting if you want to stop Brexit. If you don't want to stop Brexit, then thanks for clicking on the video. See you later. So anyways, we can look at the importance of tactical voting. So where I live, obviously I'm a Labour guy. I do have some misgivings about Corbyn, but that's not important now. If you are bothered about who the leader is or who your local candidate is, it's important to get involved during the selection process if you can. That's when you can decide, because now unfortunately is not the time for getting picky about who the leader is. Now is the time to fall in line. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. So today we're going to look at, because of the way the first past the post system is, which is something I'll discuss in another video, but for today the important thing is to look at tactical voting and how it's important. So if you're a person who wants to stop Brexit, sort of some of the pitfalls around it anyway. So if we look at this, is where I live, Northampton North, NN3, brap, that's compulsory. If anyone wondering, has to be said if you mention NN3. So if we look at this, right, so I was kind of heartbroken by this. So Sally Keeble only just lost to Michael Ellis, who I don't really like for both personal and political reasons, which I'll get onto another time. Perhaps if he wins, I'll talk about it. If not, then he's irrelevant. So anyways, she lost by under 1,000 votes, right? So you can argue, if the Lib Dems didn't set up a candidate, and we live in a perfect world, the votes transfer over to her. But then we got to remember UKIP have basically collapsed. And so if I can find the poll here. So if you look at these, you've got the Conservative stuff flying high. This is a national poll, by the way. National YouGov poll. UKIP are irrelevant. They're listed under other. That's how bad it is for them, like in the space of 2 years. So anyways, going back to this, so UKIP, they got 3.5% of the vote. So say we live in a world where these guys, they're going to be fairly right-wing Brexit-y people, potentially, or definitely. That vote could potentially go to Michael Ellis, or they might not vote because of Boris's deal not really being done again, Johnson's deal not really being Brexit in their eyes, whatever that means. We've got the Green Party candidate here. So if it's a big if, both of these two parties, their votes went to, say, Sally Keeble, say they stood down at the time, they vote for Sally Keeble, which is not always possible, because sometimes with the Lib Dems you get sort of right-wing people, or not right-wing, centre-right people, who instead of voting Tory they'll vote Lib Dem, or they'll align with the Lib Dems more ideologically, because of where the Lib Dem party is, basically. They're centre-right party, especially under Joe Swinson. So yeah, anyways, so if we lived in an ideal world, she would have, potentially she could have won the seat in 2017. And so the importance of tactical voting is, look, if you're voting for these three parties, basically you're wasting your vote here, because they've got no chance. Like, if you look at these numbers, look, we're talking almost 50% and 45%, 3.5%, 2.5, 1.6, and she's done well, in fairness, because there's a much bigger gap in 2015, and if they got 2010, no they don't, but that's not important. Anyways, she's closing the gap, Sally Keeble. She's a really nice lady, and if you are living in Northampton North, please, if you're thinking of voting for the Lib Dems or the Green Party, there was some people outside recently in town, and they were talking about the importance of tactical voting, that these guys, one of them was a Lib Dem, and he was saying that, look, it's pointless now, because we have to think of the bigger picture here. And I'm going to use an anime reference, but it's very similar to in Yu-Gi-Oh, where Yugi teams up with Kaiba to beat Dart. And even though Kaiba at the time, he wasn't that good of a guy, I suppose I could use the example in Battle City, but I can't remember their names. Anyway, it's not important. You got to remember who the major problem is, because after Brexit's done, whichever way it goes, then any alliances will crumble. And so it's important to remember that if say there's like a, there's a hung parliament, the SNP, hopefully, the Lib Dems and Labour will come together, hopefully, to try and get a second referendum on the table, because there's no way Lib Dems will win a majority, no chance. So getting back to this before I start rambling on, this is an example of how important tactical voting is. So if you are thinking of voting Lib Dem, voting Green, or even voting Labour, depending on where you live, have a think about what happened the last time, because Northampton historically, from what I was told, it's only been a Lib Dems, a Labour seat, and a Conservative seat. So it's never been a Lib Dem seat. And I like this guy, Martin Sawyer. Well, from what I've heard of him, I interacted with him a bit on Twitter. I was a bit mean to him, in fairness. He's a nice guy. And yeah, it's unfortunate that we don't live in a proportional vote system, proportional representation system, because I think he might have been a decent MP, but that's not the game that's played, Can't go into a Yu-Gi-Oh match and complain because man used Magic Cylinder on you. Unless you're in a tournament where it's match banned, but these are the rules we play under, So I'm sorry, Martin Sawyer. I'm not going to refer to you by your first name because we're not boys like that. But anyway, so that's the thing I want to talk about, UKIP's demise, and also the Brexit Party as well. They were polling higher than the Conservative Party. I think that's when May just went, and then I think that's probably when Johnson took over. I can't remember the dates, but Labour are surging a bit more, but it's a big gap, 10 points. So yeah, anyways, going on to the next bit of the video. Even in Northampton South, he didn't win by a lot, but then that UKIP vote there, but there's also the Lib Dem vote, and the Green Party vote. So if we did live in, if the parties actually came together, if the Labour Party and the Lib Dem Party said, look, there's no point in running certain people in certain seats, we're just going to pull them out. And, the last time the Lib Dems ran in this seat, they lost their deposit, because if you don't get a certain amount, you lose your deposit. And they lost, sorry, not the last time, this 2015, my bad. They lost their deposit last time round because they don't have a lot of support. But that support can go elsewhere. And that's what I really wanted to see from the main two parties, that they would actually work together and try and resolve this. There is the dark alliance with the Brexit Party and the Conservative Party, where, essentially, Farage was probably told by Aaron Banks to stand his candidates down, to not cause this problem. Because you've got to imagine, the Brexit Party were polling high, and their momentum's basically killed because they're not running in many seats and they're not on the news as much, especially because they're back in Johnson now. And so continuing on, just talking about this, if you say you live in Northampton North or Northampton South, voting for these parties, as long it is undemocratic to say, but it is pointless because it's a wasted vote. So moving on slightly, there is some evidence in one of the seats, Rob's seat. This one's important to note. So this lady here, can't remember, Monica Harding, she's gathered a lot of momentum because of, particularly because I don't think Rob is that popular. I don't have anything to base that on. Probably he's a scumbag. And I think if she talks about how Rob has messed up, I can't remember his name. God damn it. The 18-year-old motorcyclist who was killed. I'll put it as a thing. I'll put like some text up because it's really bad. I can't remember his name, especially because he's I think he was a local lad as well. He was killed not far from where I live. It's just tragic. But anyways, she's gathered a lot of momentum, which is strange because if you look at the election results in 2017 for Esher and Walton, Rob won by a very significant amount here, 58%. That's nothing to scoff at, and the fact that the turnout was very high, 75% in this seat was very high, especially since turnout nationally was 68%, so the turnout in this seat was a lot higher. But where she's getting this momentum from is partially, if I can find the article, the Lib Dems are hoping that she can benefit from tactical voting. So, if they had this alliance, then potentially the Labour candidate would have stood down. But in their infinite say and pride, which is a term I'll explain in another video, I guess, say and pride, they didn't do it. Corbyn and Swinson, they didn't talk it out, which is a shame, a real shame. But I think where a lot of this support comes from is the fact that Brexit is, I think maybe these people realise that Brexit is not such a good idea. Even during the referendum, 58 to 41, it's a decent split, it's decent enough. And I think a lot of these people, hopefully, even if they are Tories, they'll come out and vote for the Lib Dem person, because she has gathered a lot of steam. And there's this poll out here from Delta, which puts her at 5 points behind where Raab is, and so it's not a massive gap. And Labour at 9. There's no Brexit Party running either, so Raab isn't going to get any support from anywhere else. So if the Labour candidate stood down and said, look, I'm backing the Lib Dems on this one purely because of Brexit, then I believe that she could win this seat a lot easier. but it's going to be a real tense one. This one is. So if you are living in this seat here, Escher and Walton, and if you do live in oh god damn, I've forgotten his name as well. I'll put it in text in the video. Not David Davies. Is the annoying one. It's gonna bug me now. I've forgotten his name. Real blowout was in charge of DWP. Ian Duncan Smith. That's his name. Got there in the end. He's at risk at losing his seat as well. So yeah, just if you do live in a marginal seat like I do, all I ask is that look at how the seats have historically gone and look at some opinion polls. And if you are serious about stopping Brexit, then I'm lucky I don't have to vote Lib Dem. But if you're a person who does fear the consequences of Brexit, which there are a lot of people by the looks of things, please vote tactically. Stopping this thing is the most important thing, and then we can move on to other issues, other more important issues. But another 5 years, I'm going to do another video on the NHS and the nursing crisis. That will come out hopefully this week or early next week. So yeah, just please subscribe to the channel. And I think I'll wrap it up there, but please, tactical voting is so important because of the first past the post system. And just think about your vote. I don't want to say your vote is wasted. I don't want people to stay at home. I'm hoping the turnout is high. And I hope that people really think about their vote and how important it is. That they come out and vote and say, even if you're a Brexit supporter and whatever, please go out and vote. And if you live in a marginal seat, think about which way you're voting, and that will do it for this one. So like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.